Greetings, everyone! I am I'm not law-teching. I am, the mysterious swordsman. Yeah, let's go with that. With a bucket on his head. So you can't tell who I am because of the bucket on my head. Anyway, this chapter is called The Great Food Treasure Ship, and I'm not going to do that the entire time, but, yeah, hey everybody, how you been? Chapter 917, it came out a day early, so that's good. You know, we didn't have a chapter last week, so that's, great. Minor update on the strike on the channel I had last time I mentioned this. I actually got it removed, so that's good. However, I feel like the heat is still kind of on right now when you're using manga panels, so I'm still going to avoid doing that. In which case, I want to take this time to shout out BryanFavr, who is an artist over at DeviantArt, and I've actually been using his stuff as thumbnails for my videos for quite some time now. I got his permission a while back to do that, but I put his link in the description of pretty much all of my reviews, but I just wanted to shout him out again because he comes out with fan art pretty quickly, and it's through him that I'll be able at least to show you parts of the chapter through the fan art and everything, so thank you to him, and also once again thank you to Artur over at the Library of Ohara. So yeah, let's get into it. Now here's the thing, we actually start off continuing on the Gaiden of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet serial with Bellamy. I didn't think there was really much more to go on here. He arrived at a town to design pirate flags, and he started to design pirate flags, so yeah, where are we gonna go this week? Well, he's sitting in front of a drafting board drawing pirate flags. And that's it. And oh, it mentions that this town has cloth that cannot rip. Okay, so can we go back to, can we maybe go back to the Orlumbus arc and see where that was going? I know for a long time people were like, yeah, this is boring. This is just like, he wakes up at 6 a.m. He has a hearty breakfast at 8 a.m. You know, it's like, is this gonna go anywhere? Is this gonna get anywhere substantial? But it just kind of ended. And then we get Bellamy here, who's literally just sitting in front of a desk and just drawing some skull and crossbones. I mean, it's cool, Bellamy, but once again, are we gonna do anything with this? Is there like a pirate crew gonna show up on the island and they're gonna be like, we want a refund on that flag you sold us, it ripped. And then Bellamy has to be the one to like, I got this, you know, and maybe, I don't know, we'll see where that's going. Alright, so this chapter is really the one that hammers in just how bad the poverty and the starvation is in Wano, because we open up in the leftover town, and this is probably a daily occurrence, but we get like small children running up to their parents and they're complaining. They're like, Mommy, it hurts so bad, I want to eat, I'm so hungry. And the parents are trying to console them by like, you know, you're a child of Wano, you can't be yelling, you can't, you know, be complaining about this kind of stuff. You have to be strong. And I think part of that is, you know, because of the incidents involving just what happened with Kiku and Batman and everything, like Kaido's pirates are everywhere, so if they were to complain about the issue of like lack of food, they might take that as an insult to Kaido or maybe possible treason. So you want to make sure to not like shout this stuff to the heaven where like, we have no food, this place sucks. You probably don't want to do that because it's not going to end well. But I also think it has something to do with just like Japanese culture, and it's something that it's just like people in Japan don't like to make their problems other people's problems. They might be a little bit more quiet, a little bit more reserved about all that. I watched a little mini documentary once about how like the work week in Japan for a lot of like businessmen is just horrible. It's like they work a ridiculous amount of time where they'll like fall asleep in their suits on like park benches and stuff, and then wake up and go right back to work the next day. And it's just like in their culture where they just like they don't complain about it because that's just not how they do things. So that might have something to do with it here, where like the parents are like, yes, you're hungry, but you can't complain about it because that don't make, you know, that problem other people's problems. That's just not how it is here culturally. So yeah, and we also have another parent running up to Suru, who runs the tea shop, and he's like, hey, do you have any medicine? Because my child drank out of the river just like Otama. So this isn't even like a thing where the Otama is the only one. There's like every child at some point gets to that moment where their hunger is just so unbearable that they have to go do something to satiate it. I can imagine them trying to catch like rats and bugs or drinking the poisonous sludge out of the river, which, by the way, can we freaking fence off that river? There's a poisonous death river within walking distance of the town that the kids just cannot help going to and drinking out of. I understand why they're doing it. They have so much hunger, they don't know what to do with themselves, but can we at least put a guard on duty there or something, you know, to cut down a tree and just block it off or something, because these kids keep getting sick from this river. But yeah, that's what Oda's doing right now, just kind of like showing us really just overtly just how bad the situation here is. But don't worry, because from where this chapter is going and what happens at the end, I think we're going to have a very rewarding end to this little side story. Not really a side story, because I think this is going to be something that's going to follow us all throughout Wano, but this particular instance with the leftover town and everyone starving, I think that's going to have a very good ending here coming up. But moving on, we now cut over to the plantation in Bakura Town. He does this side by side where we see leftover town, this destitute wasteland, people shambling around like zombies because they're so freaking hungry. There's and then we immediately cut over to the heart of Bakura Town where we have the Paradise Plantation, where we have cattle and chickens, you know, clucking around, and there's like an endless mountain of eggs, and there's grains, and there's bread, and there's meat, and there's cheese, and probably chocolate cake somewhere. You know, it's just like this absolute paradise where all this food is being grown. There's nice, clean water for them to drink. And, of course, this is the plantation that's under the control of Kaido and his merry men. So you have to make sure that, you know, that place is taken care of pretty well. We even see a worker. See, they actually take people from leftover town and they work them here in the plantation because they need enough, you know, they need enough hands to actually work the fields and all that stuff. And then they just kind of basically pay them a pittance. Like, here are 5 silver, peasant, and then they just kick them out the back door. And maybe they'll throw in, oh, here, have some rotten, you know, corn. Okay, that's great. Bye, later. And yeah, so this one peasant, you know, gets the 5 silver, and he's like, what? That's not even an, I can't even feed my family for a week with this. This won't even get us enough clean water. And he's like, you complaining? Get the hell out of here. And so they go back to leftover town with you plebs. So yeah, that's pretty much the messed up thing here is now I think there's a few moments in this chapter that I think could be considered the highlight, but I think the overall highlight for me is the fact we get to see Speed in this chapter. Remember the headliner that was mentioned by Kiku a few chapters ago? Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised by that, because I thought when Speed was name dropped, I thought that was just like, oh, tuck that in the back of your mind, that there's a third headliner named Speed, and we'll see them much later in the arc. I thought it wasn't going to, because I know, like, we can hold him. We just got introduced to him. I mean, we haven't really seen him fight or anything. We kind of understand what he's all about, but I just thought, you know, Luffy was going to fight with Hold'em, and then, you know, they're going to go meet up with the other Straw Hats, and then maybe like 10, 20 chapters later, we get introduced to Speed or something in like the next part of the arc. But no, we find out who Speed is in this chapter, and well, Speed is a woman, so all right, and she is in fact a horse woman. Yeah, okay, so yeah, that's okay, just gonna throw out the question right now. Don't be embarrassed. Who out there wants to mount her? It's okay, hashtag not a furry, but, you know, who out there also, follow-up question, has ever read or watched Monster Musume? Centauria is also kind of the same basic idea here. Horse woman, so basically a centaur, but a really large centaur in more ways than one. She has big boobs. Okay, so keep in mind, because I was also trying to figure out, because every time we get introduced to a new member of Kaido's crew, you always have to like look at like the kind of devil fruit they have, and it is announced that she is in fact a horse smile, but you know, some of them might actually have real devil fruits, so I'm sitting there thinking about it, and I remembered that, actually I almost forgot about this, but yeah, we do in fact know the horse devil fruit already exists, and that's Pierre, Gonfal's bird companion from Skypiea. You know, and as I start thinking, I think the only reason maybe why Oda created these artificial zones, maybe not the only reason, but one of the reasons is like, in order to reuse some of the animals he already did. So he already used like the horse fruit for Pierre, but Pierre was like a minor character that hasn't shown up a single time since Skypiea. So maybe Oda was sitting there like, man, I kind of ruined the chance to have like a character that had the horse zone used in like a major way. So that's why I'll create the smiles in the artificial zone, so now I can like double up a little bit on these fruits. So yes, Speed is the busty horse centaur girl, and she is the one that was responsible for the plantation, and she's getting all of the food stockpiled together, and she's like, man, we have a pretty big haul today. And everyone's like, oh yes, Speed some. They're all absolutely in love with her, which, you know. Also, she has apparently 360 degrees view of vision, which, okay, so here's the reference with this. Okay, so you all know what a horse looks like. Of course you do. Now, horses have very large eyes, and their eyes are not, like, directly in front of, like, they're not on their face like humans are. They're on the side. So they have a much wider view of vision, right? And so someone behind Speed was like, Speed-sama, look at all the food we gathered. And she's like, I am looking at it. And they're like, well, how can you? It's like, well, because I have 360 degrees views of vision, ha! Like, that's her thing. Like, she's super proud of it. But the weird thing is, she does not have eyes on the side of her head. It's the same eyes as a human. Like, all it really is just Oda drew a normal woman, except happened to, like just, you could, like, take off the horse part fairly easily, and she's standing there as just, like, a normal woman, you know? But yeah, so she doesn't have eyes on the side of her head, but she still claims to be able to see 360 degrees. So, okay. Also, her other little quirky thing that she does is that she smiles just like a horse does. So, she really gets all the teeth in there. Like, I can't do it because I'm not part horse, but, you know, just here's how a horse smiles, and imagine that on a sexy, big-busted woman. And there you go. Man, this chapter's going to places I never thought One Piece would go. Oh wait, no, I totally expected that to happen because Zoe is a thing. Okay, actually Zoe gets mentioned later on, and it's another highlight of the chapter. Alright, so anyway, yeah, we get introduced to Speed. She's the one responsible for the food treasure ship, so she, you know, throws all the provisions on her ship, and then she'll carry it into town and then pass out the food to the Bakura district, and that's what her responsibility is. Now remember the fire from last chapter that Luffy started when he, like, bitched palmed Urushima into the side of like several buildings. That fire is still going on. It's spreading. So they get the fire brigade going, and it's like a traditional like Japanese kind of fire brigade. They have like the large things and the things that are like waving around and stuff. They get the ladders ready. They start to fight the fire. And as someone who read the majority of the manga Fire Force last week for when I was on vacation, let me tell you, this is kind of very similar to Brigade 7 if you've never read Fire Force. By the way, I highly recommend it. This is Iris. She's a nun that has big boobs, so there you go. There's also a guy that uses a lightsaber in there. Great manga. Highly recommend it. But yeah, there's a character named Benimaru, and he is like basically the leader of like a traditional Japanese fire brigade sort of deal. So it reminded me a lot of that because that's like just fresh in my mind. Anyway, Speed doesn't seem to be all that concerned with the fire. She's just kind of looking off into the distance, and she notices that Hold'em's mansion has been destroyed, and she's like, oh, that's where it started. What's going on there? So she starts heading out to town as well. So now we're having a massive cluster getting set up here. We got Hawkins, we got Hold'em, now we got Speed, all of them headliners arriving at the same area at the sumo wrestling match arena in Bakura Town to try to take out the Straw Hats and whoever's causing this commotion. So things are going to get a little bit heated up coming here, no pun intended. So cutting back to the situation with Tama, Hold'em of course has her captured in his giant lion tummy. The lion itself, by the way, is named Kamijiro, so it has an actual name. Once again, I think it's just a situation where consuming the lion artificial zone managed to create, like for example, when Speed ate the horse one, she ended up getting horse legs, like a centaur. In this situation, Hold'em just ended up getting a lion head. So the lion is named Kamijiro, and for the most part, it does seem to listen to him. I mean, it currently has a small girl in its mouth, and it's not, like, devouring her like I would assume a lion probably would be doing in that situation if there was a big hunk of meat just sitting in its, like, mouth. So I guess it can take, you know, it can take orders fairly well. It's just sometimes it's insubordinate. Now, here's the thing. Hold'em's up there, and he actually thinks he has, like, sort of like you know, he has the higher ground here. I mean, I guess technically he has the higher ground because he's higher up than Luffy, but he actually thinks that this hostage situation's gonna work. He's just like, oh, don't try to attack me because I got this girl. And just like, you know where this is going. Like, I don't even need to explain to you why this isn't going to work, Hold'em. Buddy. Luffy and Zoro, I mean, Some people have thrown out, like, maybe Law is going to show up. You know, he's going to show up and use Room, and he's going to, like, you know, get Tama away from Hold'em that way. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, that's one possible way this could go down, but, dude, it doesn't... You understand Luffy could gear second floor Hold'em before he has time to even blink. You know, before that lion even has time to reflexively bite down, you know, Luffy could floor his ass, you know, in less than a half of a second. So it's Zoro as well. I mean, it's not a concern here. You're not holding all the cards, are you, Hold'em? Also, in case you don't know, and this has already been established with Jack and Gene Rummy and everything, but a lot of the headliners are named after some sort of card game. So Hold'em, Texas Hold'em, Speed, I believe, is the name of a card game, though I've never really heard of it up till this point, and I've never played it before, but I think that's the name of a card game as well. Of course, you have, like, Hawkins and Drake, they're headliners, but their names were established before they were headliners, so they don't have the name after a card game, but yeah, that's where that is there. So, yeah, the lion is kind of putting some pressure down on Tama, and she's starting to cry, and Hold'em's up there like a, you know, basically like, I like the sound of this girl crying. It's like music to my ears. I could get used to this. I'm like, oh, Hold'em, buddy, this isn't gonna end well for you. Alright, so here's the situation, and this honestly, you know, surprised me because, yeah, Wano is an isolated country, and they go so far as to even mention it in this chapter. Law does. He mentions that, like, yeah, this place is kind of removed, so, like, wanted posters are not around here, like, they don't know who the most well-known criminals are in the world because Wano is so isolationist, but I assumed at least Hold'em would have known who Luffy was. Maybe he does, but he doesn't, like, use his name. Instead, he believes that Luffy and Zoro and Kiku, they're part of a mountain bandit gang, and the leader of whom is named Shuten Maru. And he's like, yeah, there was a theft committed at one of our plantations. That's the same theft that Batman mentioned a few chapters ago. And he's like, yeah, there's this mountain gang, and I guess they must have broken in and stolen it, and this Shuten Maru leads them. You guys must be working under him. I can tell you're pretty strong. Kiku definitely seems to know who Shuten Maru is. Of course, Luffy and Zoro have no freaking idea who that is. We have no freaking idea who that is. Maybe that's the closest thing to, like, the leader of, like, some sort of rebellion. Maybe it's not even, like, an actual rebellion, like an organized, like, revolutionary unit, but it's more of just like just a bunch of mountain bandits that are going against Kaido's rule. Hey, that's something to work with, you know? And also, considering that they're from the mountains, maybe that's what, like, Law and Beppo were doing up there. Maybe that's where their gang is meeting up, and then they could figure out a way to, like, combine their efforts and, you know, defeat Kaido or something. Maybe that's what they were doing up there. I don't know. But keep that in mind. Shuten Maru, that's most likely, I would think, going to be an ally in the long term. Maybe the first time they meet him, you know, they might not see eye to eye if he's really, like, the boss of this mountain gang or whatever, but if his ultimate goal is to dethrone Kaido and take back Wano, it's like sort of maybe like the lesser of two evils in that sense, you know? So that's the situation there. Now, Hold'em believes Luffy and the crew and Kiku are all part of that group there. Now, Kiku kind of leans over to Luffy and says, hey, Luffy, don't make him any more mad. And Luffy's like, oh, he's already pretty mad. He's like, I know. But the thing is, people, I mean, yeah, Hold'em is pretty strong and he's pretty cruel, you know, trying to pry off a little girl's face with pliers last chapter. We all know what Hold'em's about. But she goes on to say that, like, there's the calamity, Jack the Drought, that's the ruler of the Curry region of Wano, where we're at right now. He's the one that is, like, the boss of the headliners. So, yeah, whereas getting Hold'em upset, that's a big deal, but if you defeat him and get even more mad, and then he goes back and, you know, states what happened to Jack, things are going to get just worse because Jack has the power of an ancient zone and he's known as the Drought for a reason. He goes around as a woolly mammoth and stomps the hell out of... So if they make Jack mad, he might just come on down from the mountain and attack leftover town and just crush it to smithereens. So Kiku's like, make sure to not, you know, make him mad. Now, of course, Luffy has actually never really directly fought against Jack because Jack is the one that attacks Zoe, and before Jack could even, you know, get back up on the island or the elephant Island, the Islephant? Yeah, the Islephant. Momonosuke was able to communicate with Zunisha and drive Jack out, and he got knocked to the bottom of the ocean. He got destroyed pretty handily there. That was actually a funny scene, because it was like, we think Jack is going to be the enemy of the Zoe arc, and Zoe doesn't really even have a main antagonist. It's a relatively short arc compared to the other ones, but it doesn't have any major antagonists, because Jack shows up and immediately gets destroyed. So, yeah, now, Jack did not die when he was submerged underwater, because he's purportedly part fishman, so he can breathe, and he was just kind of, I guess, living under the sea, and he's just, like, eating the dancing, singing crabs that walk around him, or the fish, you know, but he can't move, though, because he's a devil fruit user, so I'm imagining him at the bottom of the ocean, just keeping his mouth open, like, waiting for a fish to, you know, swim in. So, here is the fate of Jack. He's actually already been rescued, a while ago, really. And, we all knew this was gonna happen because Oda set this up. Like, why would he set it up and not go anywhere with it? Not really sure how he was rescued. He might have had a Vivara card on him. Remember, Vivara cards do not have, they don't get wet or burnt under normal means, unless the person's life force is being, you know, in danger of being snuffed out. That's when they'll catch fire. But a Vivara card does not actually get wet or anything, so Jack could be destroyed under the ocean just sitting there with a Vivara card, and it would still lead to his position. So maybe that's how they found out exactly where he was in the ocean. We don't know who rescued him, but somebody did. Maybe it was X-Drake, I don't know. But he's been rescued, and this actually happened a while ago, because Jack is already back at Wano right now. In fact, Kiku mentions that, yeah, we saw Jack in town a few days ago, so he's back in action. He's strong enough to be walking around, and maybe he's not at tip-top shape because he got wrecked by Sengoku and their crew, and then added Fujitora and everything, and then after that, he got bitch slapped by an elephant, so, and then, like, had to wait under the ocean for a few days at least, so he might not be back up at 100%, but Jack is, like, he's a pretty tough guy, he's built pretty strong, so he's probably strong enough to get into a fight, so there's the solution there. Now, there's still 2 other calamities that we do not know about. Personally, I would have preferred if we would have found out that the Curry region is under the control of another calamity rather than Jack, because we already know all about Jack and everything. And I guess that also means that Speed and Hawkins and Hold'em, and I think Sheep's Head is also referred to as a headliner. They're all directly under Jack. So is Jack the only one that has headliners? Because all the ones that we've seen so far might be under him, except for X-Drake. We don't know if X-Drake is. He might be, though. In the other 2 calamities, do they have headliners under them? Although the thing, I did a video a few days ago on, like, the hierarchy of Kaido's crew, and I did allude to the fact that each one of the calamities might be in charge of a different region of Wano, and I think that hit the nail on the head, because that's what's stated. Like, let's just say there's 3 regions of Wano, and they're, like, really big regions, and so Curry is one of them. I think during the One Piece X Kyoto thing, it was mentioned that there was a region called Yo, the Yo region, so maybe that Oda's going to make that canon, and another calamity is responsible for that, and then there's a 3rd region we don't know about where the 3rd calamity is the ruler over, and maybe Kaido's in the center or something. I'm just throwing that out there as an idea, but yeah, so Kiku is basically asking, I mean, I don't know why she's even bothering at this point, because it seems like every chapter Kiku's going up to Luffy and it's like, hey, Luffy, make sure not to cause too much of a scene. Oh, you caused a scene. Okay, well, make sure you don't get into a fight with that Sumera. Oh, and you knocked him into a building and now there's a fire ripping through town. Hey, Luffy, make sure you don't agitate that fire. You know, like, what do you think's gonna happen, girl? Come on, pick up on some hints. Or at least try reverse psychology on Luffy. Like, hey, Luffy, see that lion guy up there? You should totally punch him right in the face with a flaming fist. See if that helps, but it probably wouldn't. All right. So, yeah, Jack is still alive, Hold'em's a douche, and Shuten Maru is the leader of this mountain bandit gang that we're probably going to be getting revealed to soon. And also, Speed is a stacked centaur. Alright, you following this so far? We don't even need manga panels, do we? Alright, so, moving on. This is the point in the chapter where Speed finally arrives. She gets there in the center of the square. She has this giant, it's a ship, but it's on, like, wheels, so it could be, like, carted through the town and everything. And it's just filled with food. Luffy, of course, can sense this a mile away. And he smells the food, and at first he's, like, happy because he's Luffy. He's like, oh, that smells delicious. But then he gets pissed because he's just, he remembers the leftover town and everybody's starving, and he's just like, and Tama as well, and he's like, wait, how come they get the food and they don't? That makes me nettled. So at this point, Luffy just shouts over to Zoro, like, Zoro, we're doing this. Like, what are we doing? I'm like, here's what we're doing. I'm attacking that lion bastard up there with Tama. You could go and deal with them. And there's like, all right, we're doing this. So I'm like, it's gonna happen. So we cut over now to Law, his side. Now, Law, we don't actually, we don't get to see him in this chapter because he has a bucket on his head. But yeah, he has a really, like, elaborate straw hat kind of deal, so no one can see his face. And it's not because of the citizens, because he even mentions this. He's like, Wano is so isolated, nobody really knows who I am. Like, Law is a wanted criminal with a bounty of 500 million berries. You know, he used to be a warlord. He was a member of the worst generations. Like, if Law should be one of the most recognizable guys on the entire planet if they're in civilization. But in this situation, it's not the case. So, the only person that he's like would really recognize him would be Hawkins, because he's also a member of the worst generation and is from the outside, and he's, I don't think, have Hawkins and Law ever have a direct confrontation before? I don't believe they have. So I don't think there's any situation there where Hawkins would recognize Law's voice or anything like that, and Law, of course, isn't dressed the normal way he is. He's just wearing that hat over himself, like a helmet kind of deal, so we can't see his face, and you know, he's just like, I can sense that this strange bucket swordsman is very strong. So Hawkins and Law are gonna fight here, but it's gonna have to be something similar to whenever Luffy was fighting at the Coliseum and he had to make sure like his beard didn't fall off or anything. Or if you've ever watched One Punch Man, it's kind of like that fight when Saitama was fighting Tsuru, and he had to make sure that his wig kept, you know, not falling off. So it might be something like that, where Law has to fight Hawkins, but he can't let him know who he is, because that's going to send up a lot of red flags. But in terms of like Hold'em and Speed, they might also have been raised in Wano, or they might not know who Law is. I don't know why they wouldn't, but it's possible they might not. So yeah, that's the situation there with Law and Hawkins. We don't get to see the fight yet, but Hawkins does sense he's really strong, and Law's like, you know, I gotta finish this quickly because I have to make sure he doesn't alert anybody. So don't worry about Hawkins, because Law's gonna hold him back. Now, let's cut back over to this situation with Hold'em. Now, I think I was being a little bit unfair earlier. Let's give Hold'em some due deference. He is a headliner, after all. He's not, like, the absolute strongest in the crew. He's not a calamity like Jack or anything, but he's still probably pretty strong. He has the power of the Lion Artificial Zone. The Lion is the king of the beasts. So, yeah, maybe Luffy could, maybe Luffy might have a little bit of a difficulty there actually getting Otama back. No, he doesn't. He immediately just punches the Lion in the face and grabs her, and they're completely confused of what the hell just happened. So that's the situation there, basically. Now, while Luffy is rescuing Tama, at first it seems like, I'm just gonna take you and then we're just gonna run away and just get the hell out of here. But then Luffy looks down at her and he sees that her cheek is all bloodied and swollen and bruised, and he's like, oh, what did they do to you? And Tama's like, oh, they tried to rip off my cheek with pliers. But, you know, it's okay, because you can't even get my dongo out that way. But I think what Luffy is starting to see in Tama is that this is someone that is connected to his brother. And his brother, like, made a promise for Otama. So maybe Luffy, in a sense, does kind of feel like maybe Otama's older brother, in a sense, where it's like he at least has to protect her, like he has a duty in Ace's memory to make sure this girl is okay and she doesn't get hurt or she doesn't die. I think maybe Luffy might start to feel that a little bit. So when he sees that, he gets enraged. All right, at first there, it did seem like he was taking Kiku's advice, that he was like, all right, I'm just gonna BAM! And then take Otama and then just get out of here. Now, at that point, the lion head, you know, the Kamejiro, it was bloodied and damaged, but Hold'em wasn't out of the fight yet, and he was like, what the hell just happened? But at that point, when he saw what Hold'em did to Tama, Luffy gets enraged, and he turns around to face Hold'em. Hold'em, oh, by the way, the lion head can spew fire. How? There are some people that question, hey, how can Luffy just light his, you know, his arm on fire? I always thought that was like, I don't know, like friction or some shit. Like he armament hockeys up his arm, and then the friction of him pulling it back so fast ignites it into Red Hawk. Like that's what I always thought how that worked, but how the hell can Hold'em breathe fire? Okay, technically, Hold'em cannot breathe fire. It's the lion. It's Kamejiro. Whatever. How the hell can Kamejiro, the lion head coming out of Hold'em, breathe fire? How does that work? Like, no, seriously, that's a legitimate question. Like, if it's just an artificial zone, the only way I got this is either there's some sort of mechanism, like you're feeding the lion like super spicy rice balls or something, and it's like, fireball, boom, fireball, boom. I'm gonna have a rough time at the privy tonight. Fireball, boom. A privy is an archaic form of a water closet or bathroom. It's a toilet. But anyway, yeah, like, is that what's going on? Other than that, Hold'em, I mean, did he eat a mythical zone? I don't know, man. It's weird. I mean, it's One Piece. Don't question it, I guess. But that really does hurt my brain because I'm like, does hockey explain that? No, not really. Does an artificial zone explain that? No, not really. So what's going on there? But, you know, it doesn't really matter because Luffy, the second that Hold'em spewed the fireballs, I immediately knew. It does seem like some kind of Dragon Ball Z, too, because like, oh, stomach laser. But in this situation, Luffy just Red Hawks up and bam! Right in Hold'em's freaking face, and he goes down. And that's always a very heartwarming scene whenever you see a douche nozzle of Hold'em's caliber get the face beat down like the Charlos treatment from Luffy. That's always a fun part to see. And that's where we end out the chapter there. Also, at the same time that's going on, Zoro managed to get on the Koma Inu and hijack the food truck. So they managed to, you know, the Koma Inu grabs it and they begin carting it off and they're like, let's get the hell out of this town, let's go! So I think what's going to happen there is they're going to escape the Bakura district, get back over to Leftover Town, and it's going to be a scene where Luffy and Zoro, they're like going to play Santa Claus or something and hand out the food to the people. Kind of a little weird because this, you know, remember back during Fishman Island when Luffy was talking about, like, I don't want to be seen as a hero because heroes have to share their meat with people. So I don't know if Luffy will be the one to participate in this, but even Luffy can see this is pretty messed up. You know, this is pretty messed up how this island is and how Kaido's treating everybody and nobody has any food and that's horrible. And then the situation with Otama, like, this is pretty bad. So I think in this situation, Luffy, even if maybe he doesn't personally agree with the whole thing, like he doesn't want to be viewed as a hero to others, I think he might just want to swallow that pride and just be like, all right, this is pretty messed up. I'm gonna hand out, okay, here's some food for you. Here's a melon, little Billy. I love melon. By the way, did you see that horse girl? She had pretty big melons. Yes, she certainly did. There's going to be a lot of fan art of Speed. I'm feeling like there's going to be on the horizon. I feel like an army of fan artists, of hentai and doujinshi artists right now are hard at work on making that a thing. Hashtag not a furry. But yeah, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the chapter. Next week, I think it's fairly possible that we're going to get to see Jack again. Because he was set up now, and he's like, oh, well, we already know he's alive, so just show him, hold him getting beat down. Personally, I want to focus on the Law fight, because, you know, Law teching. So can we please focus on the Law fight between Hawkins? Because it's been a while since we've seen Law really get into the thick of it. We actually have not seen Law getting into too many, like, just one-on-one fights with somebody, you know? He's usually got, like, Luffy or somebody out there to help him with it, like when he fought Doflamingo. Now, he did fight, I mean, he fought Treble kind of technically one-on-one, like Luffy was still around, it was just he got knocked down to the next level, and we had that scene with, like, Treble, where he's like, Steerbin! But it's always cool to see Law in a straight-up one-on-one fight, and it's always fun to see more of what Hawkins can do as well, what his Devil Fruit is capable of. So hope to see more of that in the future, more of Speed most definitely. This is the horse talisman right here from Jackie Chan Adventures. Anybody remember that? Horse talisman, healing power. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, I apologize for the lack of manga panels, but I think at some point, because let me tell you something, I've been on YouTube a long time. You know, I've been doing manga reviews for over 7 years now. Wow, that's... Wait, 7 years or 6? No, 2011. It's been 7 years. My God. Anyway, when I first started out doing manga reviews, I actually did the big three. I actually did Bleach and Naruto and One Piece the first summer. And then I started college and I had to just do Bleach. And then, you know, it's history from there. But I had a lot of issues involving Shueisha back then. And it seems like every few years or so they get kind of agitated and they decide to start copywriting a lot of things that involve their content. And then it's kind of like an ebb and flow. It just kind of like, oh, it's going to kind of bad again. And then it goes down. Remember a few years ago when they were really going after like the sites like MangaStream? Like MangaStream got shut down for a little while and then it came back. So I'm hoping this will pass and I'm just going to slowly maybe get back into the way I normally do it. But for right now, I'm just kind of going to be kind of chill with it. So So apologies, but it's for a good reason. You know, this is what I do, and it's very kind of like walking a tightrope right now. So thanks for your understanding. Hope you guys have a great night. Tekking101 with a bucket helmet, signing out.